At the movies with Tim Sika. Hey, you.
Hey, you.
Hey,
How are you?
you.
How are you
Hey,
doing, Kim?
you,
Yeah,
pussycat.
hey, you. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm good. My mom had a stroke this week, and
Oh,
I know it
no.
caught me by surprise. And it was a mild stroke, so small, and she's recovering. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with.
Oh,
But
man. First your dad,
mm,
now this. Oh,
I
my God.
know it's really weird to have, and just months apart. So,
Oh, I'm sorry
um,
to hear that. I hope you're,
yeah,
yeah.
thank you. Yeah, she's gonna be okay, and she's gonna get better, and, it's all right, but that's kinda what's going on, so I welcome the release of checking out, all the movies that you have to bring me.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's more than usual this week, so I'm going to try to talk fast.
Yay.
Yay!
Well, what's the first movie you have for us, Tim Sika?
Well, the big studio release, The Fantastic Four, First Steps,
Oh.
right? Okay, it's
Mhm.
by my count, this is the 37th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the second reboot of the Fantastic Four film series. There were a couple previous movies that didn't go over too well and actually weren't all that great. But okay, so former child actor, theater, and television director Adam Shackman helmed this project. And it's funny, Kim, you know, when you think about these Marvel and DC movies, you wonder, because these movies are so big and they're just huge, you wonder just exactly how much the director on any of these superhero movies makes a difference, if at all,
Mhm.
especially on a big project like this one, like all these superhero movies where there are so many visual effects and action sequences. You wonder, like, well, who does it even matter who directs them? But interestingly enough, and for whatever reason, with this Fantastic Four First Steps, you do get a sense of a director's input, because this one, while paying homage to all of the fans and providing for the fans all of the elements they go to see these movies for, with this one, there's a kind of a palpable sense of lightness and even whimsy that comes through on the picture, which was a big surprise for me and made the movie kind of special and noticeably apart from many of the rest of these comic book superhero movies. I loved how for one, I loved how the movie opened. We get, instead of a detailed origin story, you know, which can take up a lot of time on the movie, we get this quick Cliff Notes opening sequence that tells us how the Fantastic Four became the Fantastic Four. They were these before they became the Fantastic Four. They were four astronauts. Reed Richards, Sue and Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm. They go on this outer space mission during which they gained superhuman abilities from these cosmic rays,
Okay.
bestowing upon them, as one of them said in the movie, cosmically compromised DNA. I love that. Anyway, okay, so the plot. We quickly learn that two of the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards and Sue Storm, they're married. They're going to become parents. We learn that within the first 5 minutes of the movie. So they have a baby, which they name Franklin. A few months later, a female character named the Silver Surfer suddenly appears to announce to the people of Earth that the planet has been marked for destruction by this planet devouring cosmic being named Galactus. But it so transpires that Galactus will spare the Earth if Reed Richards and Sue Storm give away their baby to him. Because
What?
because Galactus senses that this baby's going to have this amazing superhuman DNA, right? And he
Mm.
wants to like harness that and, you know, go on and destroy other worlds, possibly even the Earth, which he said he wasn't going to do if he got the baby. But anyway, so I found the film to be surprisingly good. It was light. It felt quintessentially comic booky. Like when you, as a kid, as I did, I read the Fantastic Four comic books. It captures that feel and that sense of when you were reading them as a kid in a very
Mhm.
stylish way with a light touch. The acting by everybody involved is really excellent. Pedro Pascal heads this cast. It was a visually arresting film. It boasted a kind of photographic lyricism even at times. The Michael Giacchino score was fabulous. We also get to witness childbirth in space at high speed,
Oh,
which is
wow.
really, really interesting. And a number of other interesting sequences, usually absent from superhero movies of this type. So, okay, superhero fatigue, which we've talked a lot about on this show and which I complain about a lot, I have to admit, kind of kicked in but just momentarily after the first hour. But
Mhm.
then the film quickly picked up. And unlike previous movie iterations of this franchise, I think this movie deserves to be a hit. It was a lot better than Superman, that's for sure. So yeah, I was surprised. It was a good movie. I didn't feel fatigued, by all the, visual
Mhm.
pyrotechnics and stuff. It was just enjoyable. So
Oh,
yeah, I recommend it. Surprise,
awesome.
surprise. Yeah.
It is because usually that's not your
Yeah.
jam. You
Yeah.
look at all these Marvel movies coming out, you're like, "Ugh, another one."
Oh,
But
I
you really
exactly.
liked it. Okay.
And they always make me cranky. This one didn't make me cranky at all.
The cranky Tim Sika. Maybe that's what we should have called this segment.
Yeah, the cranky Tim Sika.
This is
Yeah.
so funny. Your next movie is called Oh Hi
Yeah, yeah. Boy, I
or
misplaced my.
Oh Hi.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, hi. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually a line from the film. And I saw this movie a while ago. I misplaced my notes for this movie because I saw it a few weeks ago. So I'm going to try and recall to the best of my ability what I liked and disliked about this movie. This was one of those movies, Kim, that I didn't particularly like. I felt that
Mhm.
most of it failed to be narratively credible, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But in retrospect, I feel that it's a fairly good movie. I think most of the problems I had with it were because I took issue with what were obvious intentional choices made by
Mhm.
the director, Sophie Brooks, and the screenwriter, Molly Gordon, to make their point, I think, about how some guys are just jerks, ruled by their libido and not taking responsibility for their actions. Not all
Ain't
guys, but
ain't
but
that the
certainly,
truth?
yeah. Well, so there you go. Certainly, the one depicted here is like a real jerk. So okay. So having said that, it's a rom-com of sorts. It's a very different kind of rom-com. It's about a couple played by Logan Lerman and Molly Gordon, who gets a story credit here. She came up with the story. She's the co-star of the film too. They play a couple who, upon first blush, appear to be very serious about each other until they go on this weekend road trip that, how should I say this, takes a decidedly unexpected turn. That results, I can say this because it's in the trailer, it results in the guy being handcuffed to a bed for
Oh.
an indeterminate length of time, while the woman and two of her friends who show up at this cabin the couple's staying at decide, well, what are we going to do with this guy, right? Yeah. So now my problem with the movie is that I never ever really believed that any of these characters would act the way they act in the movie. The Logan Lerman character, the one that gets handcuffed to the bed, he keeps unnecessarily putting his foot in his mouth, creating his own hell. I think that's what the point of the I think that's what the point of the movie was. The Molly Gordon character and her two friends certainly in real life would never be doing, saying, or acting any of what they are doing or saying in real life. In
Yeah.
other words, I had problems with the characters and believing their actions.
Yeah.
But that was my problem, not the filmmakers. I couldn't let that go. So I didn't like the film. I kept wanting to yell at the screen at these characters to stop being so damn stupid. But that said, and thinking back on the film, I kind of have to begrudgingly admit that it does make it makes several sound points, I think,
Mhm.
about male female relationships, how we all, well, for one, when it comes to relationships, sometimes based on our own needs, we sometimes misinterpret what's really going on in that relationship, which can
Mhm.
backfire on us. The movie itself is never boring. It's occasionally funny. The acting is across the board very good. I think the director and screenwriter had an axe to grind about the male of the species. Fair enough.
Mhm.
Not necessarily a bad thing. I get it. But like I said, I had problems with the logic of the behavior of the characters that kept pulling me out of the film. I didn't like it, but it's interesting the visceral reaction I had to the film. Not only was I screaming at the characters, but it was uncomfortable too, because I kept thinking, like, what is around the corner? I
Mhm.
am really uncomfortable, and I'm thinking, am I uncomfortable because of my own experience and I'm seeing it coming out on the screen, or what? So I think that the movie deserves props for that. And thinking about it in retrospect, I think it was enough for me to recommend it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
I
it
think it's
does.
yeah, I think it's a good movie, but oh man. Oh.
If it brings out a feeling and it stays with you, you think, keep going.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, one of those. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, there was also the thing where I'm going, well, this nobody would ever do or say these things in real life,
Mhm.
but I don't know, I don't know. There was a part of it, like I say, that made me uncomfortable. So I think it was hitting a
Mm.
nerve, which we don't want to go into now because that's for a therapist to handle, not Kim
You're
McAllister
so
on the after
funny.
party. Yeah.
I can therapize you. It's okay if you want to talk.
Yeah, if
Let's
yeah, I can open up to you, right? Yeah.
let's move to this one. Because I might need therapy after looking at this poster. It's called The Home.
Yeah, oh God. Okay, another I think objectively good movie because I think it achieves reasonably effectively what it set out to achieve. That's The Home. It's yet another in what appears to be a weekly release of another horror movie with a Carrie-like finale. Do you ever see Carrie, the movie
Oh yeah.
Carrie with Sissy? Okay.
Yeah.
There's a
That's a
similar,
classic.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Great movie, Brian De Palma film. This one has a Carrie-like finale that'll probably have most horror fans cheering in the aisles, although don't
Okay.
quote me on that. Okay, I not faring too well with critics, this movie.
No.
Whoever really knows the mind of we critics, right? But okay, SNL alumnus Pete Davidson, the funny guy,
Mhm.
plays, he's in the movie, he stars in The Home, he plays this troubled young man who's forced to work as a janitor in a retirement home that we soon learn harbors unseemly secrets. Let's just say. So what can I say about this movie? I found it vivid. I found it atmospheric. It was unnerving, at times out and out arty. Uh, Psychological tale with a strong lead performance by Pete Davidson. And
Oh
say
wow.
what you will about Pete Davidson. I know a lot of people don't like him. I think he's a funny guy, but he possesses this certain presence that's hard to put into words, and that works well here and to the film's ultimate benefit. There's some amusing moments, but he plays dead serious in this movie, which also lends credence to my theory that the funniest comedians, if given a really good dramatic role, can really shine. Well, he's really good in this
Mhm.
movie, but it's unpleasant. This movie, the script's kind of dumb. The cast is very good. Uh, the whole enterprise is laced with this like stylish horror movie, trappings, with, like I said, a very violent and grotesque finale. It's interesting because I just realized I said at the outset that the finale will have a lot of horror fans cheering, but I'm
Mhm.
thinking in retrospect, and just for context, I saw this movie. I saw this at an early invite only screening with a lot of audience members who I think were invited. They weren't critics. Presumably they were invited because they were on a list of like horror movie fans.
Sure.
But when the film was over, it was so interesting. The audience just looked and acted like they walked out of the theater looking like zombies. They didn't say anything, and they were acting like as though they had just been kicked in the face by a horse. So
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad for the movie. So who knows how it's going to fare with fans or at the box office. I think I think it had something, albeit very on the nose, to say about how we regard our elderly in this society.
Mhm.
I mean, it couldn't help but sort of go there about how we treat the elderly sometimes. But I found it really unsavory, not particularly fun, but, I recommend it to horror fans as a kind of predictably impactful and effective horror movie exercise, if nothing else.
Mhm.
So, I mean, the last 10 minutes, wow. I mean, we're talking about, well, yeah, we're talking really gross stuff, really horrifying
Oh.
stuff. Think the finale of Carrie only like with a 2025 sensibility as opposed to
Oh,
a
no.
70s sensibility. Yeah, that's the
Scary.
home. That's the home.
All
Yeah.
right. We'll move on from that one because this looks interesting. It's called Before We Forget.
Yeah, maybe the best film of the week.
Okay.
Although the next one we're going to talk about, Lost Cause, may be comparable,
Mhm.
but for different reasons. But this one, before we forget, it's a Spanish American coming of age drama. It's told in flashbacks. It's half in Spanish with English subtitles. but half in English as well, spoken English. It's a debut feature by this guy named Juan Pablo de Pache and co-director Andres Pepe Estrada, and it's a kind of based on their experience, I think, as friends. It's kind of a self-reflective tale that follows this filmmaker played by DePace, who directed this movie, so it kind of has a meta quality. He's grappling with an unfinished movie, and he's trying to figure out how to end this film that he's made, inspired by this formative friendship he had with his Swedish classmate he met at a boarding school in 1997. Both these guys share this bond defined by, obvious tenderness and fascination, but which seems to be continually interrupted again and again, like circumstantially thwarted throughout the course of the story by outer circumstances and misunderstandings. It's a drama which I think fundamentally deals with unspoken emotions. So yeah, as the story unfolds, these two guys are separated when one of them gets expelled from the same boarding school that they're attending. They meet again 25 years later, and then they reckon with their friendship, which may be best described as, how can I say this, more than a friendship, but also less than a romantic relationship. So the film is really about that kind of netherworld between those two things, and why perhaps there's that space between them, and perhaps the social forces, the cultural forces that get in the way of that kind of relationship that's difficult to ascribe words to. This movie reminded me of these two guys. I went to an all-boys Catholic school, and there were these two guys. I can't remember their names. They were the best of friends, always together, always seen together. There didn't seem to be anything like sexual about the relationship. I don't think there was, but there could have easily been, but you couldn't imagine it. These guys were so inseparable, and they wound up dying in a car crash, actually. But that's another story. But this movie reminded me of those guys in that way, where we're like, well, what kind of relationship is that? You kind of look at it, you wonder about it. It's just very, very special, and it's a hard relationship to put into words, and that's what this movie does. It's a tender film and a kind of layered meta narrative about memory, friendship. I don't know, maybe falling in love, growing up, coming to terms and finding peace with incidents in one's past which felt and also literally remained unfinished or incomplete. It's beautifully photographed. It's very evocative, and I found it a very special, very different coming of age tale about self-discovery and making art out of pain and personal experience. I really, really, really enjoyed it, and it was it's a surprise. It came out of left field. This is when I appreciate publicists who are repping these kinds of lesser known movies that aren't getting a lot of promotion from studios because there's no money. So anyway, I really recommend, before we forget it, it's a very nice labor of love kind of movie and story.
Where can you find this one?
In theaters, I believe. I know for a fact that it's opening at the Orinda Theater, but and I think in other select theaters as well. So yeah.
Before we forget, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sounds really interesting. The next one is called Lost Cause.
Yeah, Lost Cause. Okay. Speaking of very different, our final film of the week is quite different, and it's going to be. I want to bring this to people's attention because it's anyway, I'll explain, but this movie is going to be premiering this Sunday, July 27th, at the Roxy Theater in San Francisco as part of the San Francisco Jewish Film Festival, okay? It's the second feature film of the director, Adam Kritzer, who also wrote, edited, is among the ensemble cast. He plays a rabbi, and he also he sings in the film, actually songs he composed himself. They are performed and interspersed throughout the drama. I'm going to do my best to describe what this movie is. And they comment on the action, which primarily the action of this movie consists of a table read of a bunch of actors, and they're all very good, the actors in this movie. This was a SAG I think SAG signatory sponsored film, because most of the actors I think are in SAG, and it's a bunch of actors doing a table read of a script written by Adam Kritzer. I hope I got that right, because there's no other way around saying this. But Lost Cause is a film that is challenging to synopsize.
Mhm.
I wrote the following down, Kim, because wait, I got to find it, because I think it was Adam, the filmmaker, who provided this for me. But just for starters and for something to grab onto before going into the film, it's a useful description of the movie, which kind of defies description, but it's an intriguing one too. And it was his description that made me want to see this film. And he says, quote, "The story of Lost Cause takes place during a Yom Kippur service that transforms into a talk therapy session for Stephen Miller," end quote. And yeah, that's the Stephen Miller, Trump's guy, controversial Stephen Miller. So this movie is a multi meta narrative. It's kind of a musical. It's kind of a musical. Yeah, there are songs interspersed throughout this story, performed by the director, who also plays a rabbi in the table read, that comment on either what we've just seen or what we're about to see.
Okay.
It's interesting to watch the movie too, because while watching it, I'm looking at this movie, I'm going, this is very cinematic, but it also played like a kind of performance piece that might work well, or work as well as it does here on the stage.
Yeah.
But anyway, if I were to summarize this film upon a first viewing, and I think it requires at least a second viewing to at least superficially wrap one's head around it, maybe more viewings to uncover any deeper meanings that may be here, because he also quotes artists throughout the film like James Baldwin and Bertolt Brecht. If I were to summarize Lost Cause, I would definitely recommend it to movie audiences craving for something outside of a multiplex movie fare, as it is a very distinctive, it's very smart, very intelligent, very unusual, very creative, at times maddening, but an always compelling, always challenging, personal work of art that attempts to make some kind of sense out of the tumultuous times in which we are all now living. So it's receiving its world premiere this Sunday, July 27th, in San Francisco, at the San Francisco Jewish Film Festival. It's going to play at the Roxy. Filmmaker Adam Kritzer, who has a great movie look, by the way. His performances of the songs in the film make you wish he were like the lead singer in some kind of grunge rock group. He's got a great look. I mean, he's just got a great look. He's going to be there in attendance for a post-screening Q&A, which I'm sure is going to be absolutely fascinating. So, I have to recommend this movie because it is so different. It's so heartfelt. It's obviously a labor of love. And folks, if you happen to be in or around the San Francisco Bay Area this Sunday, you ought to check it out.
At the Roxy. Awesome. That's Lost Cause.
Yeah.
And Tim Sika's classic movie wreck of the week is going to be the Scarlet Empress.
Yes. Unusual seems to be the operative word, carrying over into our classic movie recommendation for this week, because the Scarlet Empress from 1934. You know, Kim, unusual doesn't even remotely do this movie justice. Weird is really the best place to start when you want to talk about this movie. And then we go from there to delirious, insane, surreal, crazy, and so forth. From 1934, I cannot believe this movie is 91 years old. In many ways, it feels so ahead of its time, even today. When you're watching it today, you would think it was made yesterday, because it's so advanced in terms of the way it was shot and in its overall weirdness. I cannot even imagine how this was received by audiences in its day, 1934. My understanding is that the movie bombed big time, and that the director, Joseph von Sternberg, was added to everybody's garbage list for making such an unsuccessful, expensive, and self-indulgent, and at times perceived as a turkey of a movie. Although The film's subsequently been acclaimed and celebrated as a classic. But okay, it's from director Joseph von Sternberg, whose many film collaborations with actress Marlene Dietrich are legendary. They are reunited again in The Scarlet Empress, with Marlene Dietrich starring as Catherine the Great in what is basically, it's a highly romanticized rendering of her life, of Catherine the Great's life, from her childhood through her arranged marriage to this half-witted Grand Duke Peter, insanely portrayed by Sam Jaffe, who 3 years later would do this like total about face playing the High Lama in Frank Capra's Lost Horizon. But anyway, I digress. I think for lovers of cinema, this film is practically a religious experience, because in terms of visuals, this movie is a symphony verging on insanity. It has to be seen to be believed. Grotesque statuaries of deformed gargoyles and slaughtered people decorating most of the palace. And that's just the beginning. I could talk for hours about the Scarlet Empress, but, you know, I'm feeling like I'm talking myself out, and our segment's running a little bit long this week, but I am kind of talked up. But if you've never seen it and you're in the mood for something arrestingly, I don't know, indescribable, one of a kind, and masterfully filmed and performed pieces of cinema, you can't get much better than The Scarlet Empress, which is, I think, I just realized I have to keep in mind that some of these movies I'm recommending, are only available in physical media and hard to see if you've stopped collecting Blu-rays and DVDs. I think you can only see The Scarlet Empress on a Criterion disc.
What?
Yeah, on a Criterion.
Can't be right.
Yeah, well, there's a horrible dupe on YouTube, which I suggest people avoid at all costs. But yeah, hard to see if you like a Blu-ray player, but worth every second of watching it if you can. I mean, it's an incredible, masterfully cinematic movie masterpiece, one of a kind. It's just, it transforms you, this movie, watching it, because you just can't believe what you're watching and what you're experiencing. It's just amazing. Anyway, I'm going to keep in mind moving forward that the movies I pick are ones that you can easily stream. I don't think this one you can stream. You have to see it on a Blu-ray disc. But anyway, I'm just throwing that out there for everybody. Remember it, if nothing else, The Scarlet Empress from 1934.
I've never even heard of this movie before, so it's interesting.
Yeah, it's 91 years old. So yeah.
The pictures are beautiful.
You're only like what, 25. So
that's right. Yeah. How did that happen?
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, she looks beautiful in the movie.
Oh, she's gorgeous. She's stunningly photographed. Von Sternberg photographed Dietrich like nobody else. And yeah, she's beautiful in this movie. But it is some kind of wild ride, this movie. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. That's a guy who that's I can't remember. He plays a count, this guy. And there's the suggestiveness in this movie, because I think it came out right before the production code was starting to become enforced. So the sexual innuendo in this movie is like super perverse. Even now, even watching it now, 91 years later, you're going, holy cow.
That's such a surprise, because you would think that they would be much more conservative then.
No. Well, I mean, they were gonna a year later when Will Hayes enforced the production code. But yeah, this movie's suggestive sexually too. Okay. So anyway, terrific movie. Yep.
All right, quick recap if we can. The Fantastic Four, The First Steps. You said this was surprisingly good. The acting is excellent. It's visually arresting. You said it's got a fabulous score. And this movie, you say, deserves to be a hit. You enjoyed it. You recommend The Fantastic Four, The First Steps.
Indeed.
Oh, hi. You said of this movie, oh, hi. It's a fairly good movie, but you really didn't like it when you saw it, then you realized it made you really uncomfortable. So you thought maybe there was something here. You said it's a different kind of rom-com, but you never really bought into the story or the characters, but still it made you it elicited such a reaction from you that you're recommending Oh Hi.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, perfect.
The Home. This movie, you said it's a good movie in that it does what it sets out to do, but It's a good cast and a dumb script, you said. Interesting message about how we treat old people, though. You recommend it for horror fans, horror aficionados, and you warn that the last 10 minutes is super gross. Super
Yes.
gross.
Super
You,
gross.
before we forget, you called this one the best movie of the week. You said it's half in Spanish, half in English, but it has subtitles both ways. And it's about an interesting relationship. You called this movie tender, and you said it's about friendship and finding peace with things in your past. You really enjoyed Before We Forget, and you recommend it. And this one, Lost Cause, which you say is a very interesting commentary on the times in which we live, premiering this Sunday at the Roxy Theater in San Francisco. So that could be a fun weekend outing. You said it's challenging, but you're recommending it to people who really want a different movie going experience. And you called it smart and creative and compelling and masterfully filmed. And you're recommending Lost Cause. And last, we might be challenged to find it and to see it, but Tim's classic movie rec of the week is The Scarlet Empress, featuring Marlene Dietrich. And of this movie, you said it's weird, a visual symphony, and it's interesting for the times and how relatable it is to today. And you're recommending as your classic movie rec of the week, The Scarlet Empress.
Kim, I have a question for you. Do you take shorthand?
I just type the little things that you say as
Oh,
you're going
okay.
along.
I
Yeah,
was
it's like
wondering if you did shorthand. Yeah.
when you say something that I find particularly interesting, I'm like, oh, he says
Oh,
this. Yeah,
okay. All right.
yeah.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
It's
Because
my
you,
little. I take notes on your comments. Hope you have a great weekend. That is
yeah,
at the movies with Tim Sika.